Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video. Men who have been R-worded, what happened and how did you recover?
Experience 1. When I was 16, I was arrested for burglary and spent 6 months in a juvenile facility. One of the counselors sexually assaulted me and several other boys. When he was on night duty, he would show us intercourse videos and ask us to compare the size of our dick sizes to one another. He would also show us how to huff inhalants. One of his favorite games he called a space monkey, which involved a boy standing against a wall while the counselor would have his hands on our throats. He'd squeeze until we passed out and watch us wake back up. I sliced my arm open with a razor blade that I stole from a staff member so that I could go to the hospital to tell someone about the abuse. It took 20 stitches to close my arm. Children and Youth Services, as well as the state police, opened an investigation. The boys were sent home, the facility was shut down, and a lawsuit followed. I'm 32 now and am still haunted by it. Experience 2. Was R-worded by an uncle, retired military/firefighter, from 7 to 13 years old. Violence and pain were his thing. Pretty standard story of using threats of killing me and my mom or my older brother if I ever spoke about it. Finally stood up to him just before my 14th birthday. From 13 to 18 years old, I kind of junkied out and started down the road of self-deprecating behavior. Finally told my parents at 18 years old, and of course, no one believed me. 56 now, never had any quality relationships, nor have I ever been able to find therapy to alleviate the trust and intimacy issues that I carry. So, the truth of the matter is I never really recovered from it. 12,000 edit. This morning when I woke up and wrote these few short sentences, I never could have expected so much support and genuine compassion. I'll admit that writing the post brought a lot of things to the surface that I hadn't given any attention to in some years. And I've never spoken openly about any of this prior to today. I've only spoken to about 24 people my entire life about it. That includes 7 therapists, so to say, I've been a little soggy today is a bit of an understatement. I do believe a touch of my faith in humanity was restored today. Experience 3. My brother did various things by framing it as a game of truth or dare. Despite being a strong and threatening dude already, he didn't have to threaten physical violence, he just had to threaten to tell our mother, which is a highlight of the level of emotional abuse from that end of the family. Broke away from the family that's most inane at 24, got therapy, learned Krav Maga for a personal 4-year, then dated someone especially abusive, another sexual abuse instance, got more therapy, took a 4-year break from dating to finish school and get a job. And start a great relationship. At age 36, my life couldn't be better. Cheesy edit, but thanks for the support, everyone. Far and away my most upvoted anything on any platform, and solid support all around. It can be pretty difficult for men to be supported, or even believed, about this sort of thing. I hope we all strive forward to great lives. Experience 4. I was R-worded by 2 18-ish-year-old men when I was 9. Life of drug addiction, and I did not know what was wrong with me. My dad was drinking with their father and doing other drugs at a drug dealer's house? I don't know. Anyways, 28 now. I forgot the entire event that changed my life until 2 years ago. So, the trauma of it caused so much pain and agony, but I could not remember it, and I've only just now started to figure things out. So, my life was dark, and I felt broken for a very long time. Decades of confusion, and then one day at 26 years old, it all came flooding back to me. I feel bad for that little boy, but I will continue to not be the victim. Experience 5. I was 15 and had a girlfriend, but I was watching Super Troopers at a friend's house drinking and smoking weed when I fell asleep. I woke up choking on him and immediately vomited, but I was so tired and confused. His brother came down asking what was going on, but was reassured everything was on the up and up. I fell asleep again. When I woke up next, this friend was on top of me and inside of me. Panic and fear. That's all I can remember. Told me to keep it our secret or else he'd tell everyone I was gay, which at the time, to me, was a social death sentence. He groomed me for months before that and continued to abuse me for another year after. He broke into my house and chased me, pinned me to the couch. Showed up at my house in the middle of the night. Years have passed since then, and he has since passed. I was 15 when it happened the first time. You never recover, you just adapt. You become more protective of yourself and others, more empathetic, more sympathetic, and angrier. So much angrier. I've come close to ending my story on several occasions, but seem to talk myself out at the last moment. These days, I don't trust any man and am constantly in fight or flight. It's exhausting. Experience 6. Assaulted multiple times during the first 10 years of my life by my biological father, his girlfriend, and his brother. It was not just me, my sisters and mother were also sexually assaulted. It has a lasting impact. I've had therapy, guidance counseling, and in later life, it was antidepressants and more therapy, etc. It sounds stupid, but you grow up thinking it's your fault and that you could have done something to stop it. One thing that helped a lot was being open about it. The more I spoke about it, the less impact it had on me. Eventually, I realized that it wasn't my fault and it helped alleviate my depression. My biological father now suffers from multiple illnesses, so every waking day of his life is painful, and it makes me happy. The girlfriend was eventually targeted by them both, and she is now in witness protection. The brother was sent to prison and was beaten by inmates daily. He is now dead. It only stopped because a social worker turned up at my father's address and saw us being beaten through the window. I've not seen him since. However, he found me on social media a couple of years ago and basically said everything is water under the bridge and tried garnering sympathy by sending a photo of myself and my sisters, followed by how he's searching for his long-lost children. He stated he was dying and would love to have a relationship with them again before he died. He also stated that he'd rather be blocked than left on read, as that would give him an answer. I left him on read. He's had many children since I was born, so I have multiple half-brothers and sisters. I pray to God that they didn't have the same experience that I did. Experience 7. When I was 7, I attended a sleepover as a part of my neighborhood Kia troop. Kias are junior Boy Scouts in my country. There were 30-ish boys all sleeping around the outside of this enormous gymnasium, and I woke in the middle of the night to the 30-something-year-old scout leader hovering above me. He was doing something that it took me years to understand. He then took my underwear, put them in the front pocket of my backpack, and whispered to me that he was just changing my underwear because I had wet my pants, and if I didn't want my parents to be mad at me, I'd best not tell them about this. Many years later, in my 20s, I was shopping at the local Walmart when he walked up to me to ask if I needed help finding anything. Turns out he worked there. I got away from him as quickly as I could. Truth be told, I don't have particularly strong feelings about the whole thing other than a constant feeling of guilt about how many other boys he may have done it to since. Experience 8. He was my best mate. We were 19. He put on a game he knew well and declared that the loser of every round had to drink. When that didn't work, he gave me pills he said were ecstasy. Scene missing. Suddenly I'm face down and my butthole hurts. He sat on the edge of the bed crying and throwing me out. I tell nobody but my partner and we never speak again. Many years later, said partner tries to get us to reconnect. I broke up with her on the spot. Which was the right call, as I found out later. She wanted a three-way with my assaulter. The R word, I was okay with. Sort of. I didn't remember anything, really. But that screwed me up. It took me years to trust anyone again, but I did. The love of someone good is the best curative possible. But if you can't get that, talk to a professional. And if you can't do that, a friend. And if you can't do that, internet strangers. Just don't let it fester. Experience 9. I was 6 years old when my older brother helped himself to my innocence. Recovery? My parents didn't want anything to do with it, and my brother has been avoiding me ever since I confronted him about it. I'm just stuck with this for the rest of my life, and that's all I got. Edit. To all the people who voted or replied, thank you. I never thought there were so many people who cared. I won't forget about this. Much love to all people here. Experience 10. Was on a football trip when much younger, and this girl who was in the hotel with her friends told me she wanted to screw me. I said I had a girlfriend, and it wasn't going to happen, but thanks for the ego boost. I went to bed that night after drinks etc., and my mate who was sharing the room with me told me this girl was going around the hotel trying to find my room and had found out where I was. He told me to move room, so I did, and she didn't find me that night. The next day the same thing happened. We all ended up back at the hotel after clubbing etc., and she wouldn't leave me alone. I traded rooms with another friend and went and drunkenly crashed into his room. She somehow got in and was sucking my dick trying to make it hard and was trying to put a condom on me, at least. Another friend saw what was happening, the door was left open apparently, and shooed her out. I passed out again to wake up to her backed up against me and using my morning wood for intercourse, without a condom this time. It took me a while to realize what was going on, and I eventually told her to get out. Obviously, I then had a massive panic as I had to go home to my girlfriend, and all the lads on the bus knew I'd had intercourse with somebody. I was about 18 or 19 at the time. My girlfriend wanted intercourse when I got home, and I obviously couldn't do it due to the condom, so told her what happened, and she went freaking mental and accused me of cheating on her. At the time I didn't even realize that I'd done nothing wrong, apart from being too drunk to protect myself, and it led to us breaking up for a while before she eventually forgave me. I got an STI from that girl too and had to take a course of tablets. It was a really screwed up situation from somebody old enough to have known better and extremely predatory. I wish I'd been smart enough to realize what was happening, but this was the late 90s and the R word against men wasn't a thing that was really thought about.
Do you like listening to these stories? Do you want to hear more of them? Then click that like button, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And check the description for links to more videos and interesting stories.
Experience 11. It happened to me at 8 when my parents would send me to get them some stuff from a mom and pop store. The owner wouldn't be there sometimes, and it would be the assistant instead, and at that time she looked like she was in her 30s. I don't know, all I know is that she would use Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards to lure me closer to her. I trusted her that she wouldn't do anything bad since she was an employee. One time I asked her if she had some cards in stock and she said she thought so, but the boxes were in the bathroom, which they were because the place was pretty small, and when I went in, she closed the bathroom door, put my pants down, and she went down on me and gave me a hand job. I was so scared to death because as an 8-year-old, you're not going to understand anything of what's going on, not understand certain feelings and sensations. She traumatized me to the point that I no longer wanted to go to the store, and every time she was around my heart would race so fast and I would get extremely uncomfortable around her. She would put her hands on me, and I would just absolutely hate it. I developed trauma from people touching me without my consent. So whenever someone touches me in a way that can be felt or seen as intimate, I shut down and clam up so fast. I don't like anyone whom I don't have deep trust with to be touching me at all. Even my friends now and then startled me, and I tense up so badly. I get anxious and feel like something terrible is going to happen even if it doesn't. Experience 12. Never been taken seriously about it. 2 different assaulters, one when I was around 5 to 6, and one when I was around 8 to 9. Didn't understand what was going on or what was wrong with what I was doing, I just wanted to fit in with older kids. Then I was R-worded when I was 19 by a younger girl. I was inexperienced and resistant, but felt deeply emasculated and confused for not being eager about it. It was a tipping point that sent me spiraling into depression. Now I'm married to an incredible woman who keeps me feeling safe and loved, but I don't talk about what happened. Experience 13. So, I had just come out a few months prior and I was out by myself, mistake. I had 2 drinks by myself before linking up with a guy on Grindr at the gay bar. He seemed nice. He was a TV reporter for the local news station. Seemed trustworthy. He bought me my 3rd and final drink of that night. I completely blacked out after the 3rd drink. I'm a recovering alcoholic, 3.6 years sober, so 3 drinks were nothing to me. Regained memory being helped into his truck. Regained memory handcuffed to a bed. Then I woke up in front of my house after he had dropped me off. Went to the hospital with my poor dad, just told him what happened. I don't know why, but I remember refusing the R-word kit even though I pushed out semen from my butt prior to coming to the hospital. I felt embarrassed, scared, vulnerable, weak. I did, however, go on post-exposure prophylaxis for HIV. The terrible thing that happened. It was the first guy I had anal intercourse with. But I guess it's anal R-word because intercourse implies 2 parties mutually agreeing to engage in the act. Haven't told many people. The ones I did tell attributed it to my alcoholism. Truth is, I didn't spiral out of control until a few years after that. I really did only have 3 drinks that night. Found out through the grapevine after some time that this guy was putting GHB or some other hallucinogen in people's drinks for a hot minute. Crazy stuff. Really sad situation. But I'm good now. I ended up becoming an ER nurse. I take all R-word allegations very seriously as it's a very delicate process that takes hours to complete accurately. I'm glad I was there for my male patient who came in for sexual assault. I've only done one in practice, but I made sure he knew that it was okay. You are safe here. You can cry. You can feel this way. You are safe here. Experience 14. An older brother started assaulting me when I was 5 years old, which soon turned into a full-on R-word, and it went on for years, until my teens. It caused severe trust and intimacy issues, along with depression and anxiety. I stayed silent about it, until one random summer night when I was 15, my mom asked me if something happened, to which I said yes. That didn't solve any issues though, as we got into a huge argument about my status of continuing to play high school football, where she said that the sexual abuse wasn't an excuse not to play. As of 2 years ago, I started counseling with a professional specializing in trauma, particularly sexual abuse, and it's helped immensely, along with some medication. I'm still on the long road to recovery, but I am functioning a bit better. However, I feel that I'll always be a bit off. Experience 15. I was 9 and with my aunt. My stomach was paining. She asked to look into it and went down on me. It happened for a few years. I didn't know what was happening at that time, but when I shared it with my friends later, they called me a little B-word. I also shared it with my ex during adulthood. She was sympathetic at first, but then used it against me during any fights. Now, I have trust and intimacy issues and feel that I won't ever experience what it feels like to be in a healthy relationship. I feel like Charlie from the book Perks of Being a Wallflower. Experience 16. 2 instances. First was a coworker of my older brother that offered to buy me alcohol when I was 14. I started drinking young, so was excited about the offer. Turns out she expected a transactional relationship that didn't involve money. It made me feel sick at the time, but I went back for a while. My friends would beg me to suck it up and go get us booze. Every time I did, I would leave feeling physically ill. She was 26. The second happened when I was 16. I got way too drunk at a party and vomited violently, couldn't stand, and passed out cold. I have a vague memory of waking up to my face being ground by a vagina. When I woke up the next day, the girl whose house it was at told me we hooked up. I literally was still wearing the shirt that had vomit on the front. I'm not sure what happened besides that brief memory. I didn't really deal with it until my late 20s when I finally got sober. Therapy helped a lot. I don't tell really anyone about it. Almost every time I've brought it up to male friends or ex-girlfriends, they've responded with sounds like a good time, haha, or mockery. When I met my wife and shared these stories with her after dating for a few months, she responded with so much sympathy and outrage that I started crying. I guess that's all I had been looking for. It was so validating. Experience 17. I was 12. It was my brother's wedding. This cousin stayed at our place for a few days. He was 19. I didn't know a single thing about intercourse, the anatomy of genitals, or anything, never watched online explicit videos by then. He introduced me to all this stuff gradually over the days, and I kept leaning towards it, thought that it was taboo, but okay. We had 2 service women, one 19 and another 8 to 9. He kept telling me how he would force himself on the elder one day and how he would do that. Mine screwed me into believing that it was all right. He flashed in front of me several times, came once, showed me online explicit videos, and told me about his sexual stories with guys. I didn't know what gay or straight meant then. Then one day he called me into the bathroom and asked me to lower my pants and did it, and then he let me do it because I said it was my turn. After that, he asked me to not tell anyone. A day or two later, I tried to force myself on that younger girl once or twice, not that I knew what to do or how to do it, but still just tried and left. To this day, I have very few to no issues about me getting assaulted. Maybe a few subconscious ones. But I can't forgive myself for the latter part. I tried to explain to myself that I was young and brainwashed. I was a child and wouldn't know, but still, I wish my past was clear of my abomination. Never after that, I had a similar thought of doing this to anyone. But that just breaks me even to this day. I just wish if something bad was going to happen, should have happened to me, not to someone because of me. I went on to become an online explicit video addict. Left it very difficult, got therapy, and made myself understand that the first part wasn't my fault, and to some extent, the events that followed were also not my fault. I have almost recovered except for what I did. Experience 18. He called the police right after and told them I was threatening suicide to get parents involved for some reason. I got sick soon after with Lyme disease, so I didn't have time to tackle anything involved and turned off as many feelings as I could and pushed them deep down inside until I was in my early 20s. Then I got into my first serious relationship, and the whole turn-off feeling approach I had adopted until then just wouldn't cut it. After many breakdowns, mental health crises, and a lot more, I ended up at an R-word clinic nearby. The lady I saw listened to my story, then reprimanded me for not telling the police what happened right away and said if other people got hurt in the future it would be my fault for not reporting it. This screwed me up for years to come. A few years after this event, I was not doing well. At all. I was recommended by a very kind doctor or therapist I could talk to, but after my last experience, I was very hesitant. However, I decided to give it a go since I couldn't go on as I was at the time. This changed everything for me. She was kind and understanding and managed to slowly coax me into talking about everything that happened, and even managed to convince me that what I did was correct for me in lots of ways because the trauma combined with the illness was just too much mentally for any 12-year-old to handle. Or anyone, for that matter. And the reason I was having so many issues suddenly was because I felt safe enough to tackle them. So, I did, slowly. I began to talk to people I love and trusted. I started joining clubs and doing activities to make me feel normal again, things I had neglected for years. Rediscovered interests kept me busy but also kept time to seek help when I needed it. This is one of the big things to understand. I don't think I'll ever be over it, as it is as much a part of me now as anything else in my life, but I also know that I can't just pretend it didn't happen. There are good days, there are bad days, much like any trauma anyone in this world has felt, but by discussing it with others and letting them know it's normal, real, awful, but in reality, you can start down the path of recovery. Nobody can fix you, because you're not broken. All you can do is look inside, with help if needed, and try to figure out where to move forward next.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.